What if I told you that freedom, fulfillment, and financial ease are just a plane ride away? From Accra to Amsterdam to Bangkok, more and more Black Americans are making the decision to ditch the grind and to find their joy living abroad. There are over 5 million Americans living outside of the US right now. And guess what? A big slice of that number is Black Americans. Matter of fact, online groups such as Blacks in Portugal and Blacksit Tribe have exploded in recent years, with thousands sharing how they've swapped stress for serenity. From lower cost of living and affordable healthcare to vibrant culture and a sense of belonging, the Black expat movement isn't just a vibe, it's a global shift. Hi, I'm Mike Riley, and I want to welcome you to the very first episode of The Other Route, a show where we celebrate all the unique ways that Black people are tackling this thing we call life. So in today's episode, I'm going to be chatting with Miss Nicole Brewer. Nicole lives abroad in Nizwa, Oman, where she works as an English teacher. Now, if you're wondering where the heck Oman is, you're not alone in that. I had to go and look it up myself. I have so many questions for Nicole. What's it like for Black people there? Is there a Black community out there? What's the food like there? And what's the process? How did you even get from living here in the United States, in Detroit, to all the way out there in the Middle East? I got so many questions for Nicole, so with no further ado, let's jump right into it.
Great. Yeah, thank you for having me first off. Yeah, so I'm Nicole Brewer. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I attended the University of Michigan, Go Blue. I moved straight to Chicago after graduating from undergrad, and I worked there for several years. I worked in market research for a few different firms. And in 2008, I was laid off from my job. That was like the start of that first recession. But when I was laid off from my job, it was tough because I was going through. I'm like, oh, I'm a graduate of Michigan. I'm not gonna have a problem finding a new job. And sure enough, it was getting close to that time. My unemployment was going to run out, and I was just like, okay, I got to figure something out. And the girl needs to get a job. I'm flexible. I'll leave the country if I have to because I actually had a couple of girlfriends who had taught in Japan. So I was inspired by them when I saw that they did and actually went to visit them in Japan. So after having experience of going to like Southeast Asia, visiting them there, I was like, "Oh, let me just try for a job abroad," and that's how my first teaching a job abroad came about, working in South Korea for a few years, and then from Korea, I went to Oman, and just Oman stuck, I never left. It's still here to this day.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So that's how you got into the expat life then, was you were inspired by some of your friends who were actually going out there doing it as well. That's what made you want to kind of do it?
Yes, exactly, that was it. When I saw like, this is cool. I always plan the plan was to only do it for, like, a year or 2 once the economy got better, but I was loving it so much, I said, "I don't I'm
Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah. What a way to do it. What a way to do it. Next. How long have you been doing this stuff?
just over 15 years now, I'm going on 6 oh my god. I'm going on 16 years, I can't
Well, it's 16 years. So you've been living abroad outside of the United States for the last 16 years?
that's like, saying it out loud, like, it doesn't even feel like my reality, but yeah, I
Oh,
had
goodness. That is insane. Well, can you tell us a little bit about the countries you've lived in before you actually moved to Oman, before you decided to settle there in Oman?
Actually, when I first moved abroad, I lived in South Korea for about 3.5 years. I was teaching there, and Korea was a good time. Like, I still have good friends from my days teaching in South Korea to this day.
Did you get a chance to go to North Korea, friend? I'm just joking. Joking. But
Mm, I did go to the DMZ, so I went to the borders. I would let the Igor I'll go ahead, you got say, "Hey, North Korea," but I didn't need to go. I didn't need to cross that border, no.
oh my gosh, that is it. So you got a chance to actually see that, witness that with your own 2 eyes. That is insane.
Wasn't that crazy?
So what was it about Oman that made you want to stay?
It's funny you say that because, like, I never, like, envisioned I didn't even know where Oman was prior to, the job placements. You
You know what? Not to cut you off, but prior to us having this discussion, I had no idea where Oman was either. I had to go and actually look it up on a map. Yeah, it was crazy.
funny because, I was looking at the Middle East because I had always heard, like, "Oh, the money's good in the Middle East," so, this year I was looking at Dubai, everybody knows UAE, but then this little country right next door, a job ad popped up for them, and I was like, "Oh, let me check them out." I came to Oman first in 2012. I was here for a year, from 2012 to 2013. Then I had applied to go to graduate school, so I actually left Oman for a year. I went to Germany, and I did, like, a few months of an internship in South Africa. I did like, an accelerated master's program abroad. I went to in South Africa. Then in 2014, I came back. Yeah, so that's how, so I do have a few countries under my belt. So it was like South Korea was like the first expat community I was in. Came to Oman, left to go to school, and then ended up coming back and just never left again.
Did you travel a lot before you decided to enter this lifestyle, this expat lifestyle?
It's funny because I always say, yeah, like my blog, I love the Globetrotter, so that is like my motto. I got in a Globetrotter, but I really didn't get into like international travel on in this capacity until I moved abroad. Like, I was always intrigued. Like I knew I enjoyed. Like my curiosity was piqued because like my eldest sister, she used to live in California. I'm from Detroit, so grew up in summers. Like she got married, right? So she moved to California, the San Francisco Bay Area. And so in the summers as like a preteen, like, 11, 12, 13, like I started visiting her in the summers and just like, getting on a plane by myself, shipping me off, and I'll go visit my sister in the summer. So like I always had that like independent, like, oh, I'm interested in this travel business, I started off early with it, just, going across the country and then, spring break with friends in Jamaica, Caribbean. But international travel, it only happened until I decided to move abroad, so yeah.
So how was it like getting adjusted to the expat life in the beginning?
It's definitely I like to tell people that it's not for everyone, right? So, like, for me, I do feel like you have to be, um I don't know, you have to be flexible because you're going to be into a culture that's different from your own. Like South Korea, I will say when I first went there, it was a lot of like adjustment because like being like African American, it was just like, I'm not I'm 5'10", I'm a tall black woman. So like I used to the kids South Koreans be like, whoa, like they'll see her, they're just like there is yeah, their reaction. I'm just like, what? Like they, I might be the first black person I ever saw in person. So it was like that culture, shock of just like, but then also on the flip side, you would have parents who will literally like, oh, they'll hear your accent, "Oh, she's American," and they will literally push their kids in your direction and go talk to you because 'cause they're like, "Oh, he's not English." Right, so it was like you would have both extremes, and for me, I was just like, "Oh," I just kinda roll with the punches. And on the flip side, coming to Oman, it was different because it's like it's a different type of culture because it's a Muslim culture, but, Oman, like half of them are, like, just as dark as me, like, African Omanis, like Tanzanian Omani. So, like, they'll see them like, "Oh, sister," like, "Hello, sister," like, they call you sister.
Are there are there a lot of like African black people from that look like us? Are there a lot of them there?
Yeah, surprised, like, I don't know about a lot, but I mean, like, the locals, like, there are, like, African Omanis, so just like, they're from and then, like, there are other African, like, expat workers from, like, Africa, South African you come across, but I wouldn't say as many, um,
What about African Americans themselves?
yeah, we're a dabble here and there. Like, I do have some, some African American friends. I live in Nizzle, so I'm in a smaller town. Like in Muscat, you do come across like more expats there just because it's a bigger city. Yeah, I have a few. Like, I have like the brothers of mine, like Facebook group and WhatsApp group. So we try to get our little meetups and get-togethers and stuff like that.
How long do you think it took you to really kind of fit in and adjust and get yourself all ready to kind of pretty much adapt it to that lifestyle?
Say for me, I feel like I was really just I kind of rolled with the punches quite early. Like
Uh,
I will say, like for the average person, like I would say that first year of like just getting your footing and your bearing. Like I know some people didn't even make it to the first year. We used to call them runners. Like people, they would end those contracts early. They'd be like, this is not you. So it's like man, if you complete that first year of that contract, you're doing really good. You know what I mean? Like, I will say it's an adjustment period just trying to get your footing in, like, a different country, a different location, so
what's the lifestyle there in Oman, and how would you compare it to the lifestyle here in the United States?
yeah, it's definitely different because, like, here, it's a Muslim country, so it's like,
Right.
I do have some expat friends who are, like, study who are Muslim, so it's just like for them, it was like, hey, they were already used to, the call or pray like, well, actually, I'll take that back, like, if you were a Muslim living in the States, there were certain challenges you had to deal with here. I feel like for them, it was easier for them to incorporate into the culture because they were already used to
Right, exactly.
laws and things like that, but they are able to adjust easier because it's like this country, like, for example, like, I don't eat pork anyway. Like, I gave up, that a long time ago. So, like, coming here, it was like, "Oh, it's something different." But, some of my like, even not even black people, just like some of my Polish girlfriend, she was like, "I can't wait to go home this summer, gonna eat all the pork." Like, I just like certain small little things, they're just like, they're ready. They're like, "I can't go back." They have the call of prayer like 5 times a day. So, like, the first one is like 5 something in the morning, and the next one is like I don't know the timing exactly, but, like, 5 times a day, all of the mosque, you will hear, like, they will do the call of prayer. And I'm adjusted. It's beautiful to me. Like, I am like, if I'm out, like, I would just, like, listen to it, even though I'm not Muslim, like, I appreciate,
Right. That's so interesting just to kind of speak about the religious aspect of it. Do you find yourself being ingrained in that in any type of way? Because I understand being in a Muslim majority country. I visited Istanbul in Turkey, and that's also a Muslim country. But there's not a lot of like strict adherence to being a religious person there. Do you find that there in Oman? Yeah. Do you find like they're like, oh, you have to kind of cover your head and do the whole, kind of follow some of the customs that they have there.
Well, luckily for like, because I'm not Muslim, like I can, as long as you respect the culture in a sense of like like I live in Israel, it's a more conservative city than like say even Muscat. Like, I make sure if I'm going to start like when I go grocery shopping, I'm not gonna put on shorts that are like above my knees, because like you can't. There are signs at the mall, for example, it's just like, if you have a tank top on, if you have like spaghetti no, they're gonna turn you away. No, like, they're serious about, like, respect our culture. Since I'm not a Muslim, I don't have to cover my hair. Like, Saudis are different, that's a different monster. Like, they are, like, cover your hair even if you're and, like, here, they're more flexible when it comes to that because 'cause they're like, "Oh, if you're not Muslim, you don't have to do that." But when it comes to, like, normal casual dress, then they do expect you to, like, cover, like, they don't
Right.
wanna see short, you know? And so, like, and because and since it's becoming more tourist friendly, like, every so often when I'm out, I will see, like, a traveler, and, like, usually other, like, not us, but usually other, but you see them, like, in little shorts, and I'm just looking like, "Girl, where do you think you are?" Like, so I've come more so follow the rules. This is Oman. There's more conservative than like say Dubai. You can get away with that stuff. You can go to the mall there and you'll see any and everything. Oman is not that lenient when it comes to
Right.
that aspect. So
What would you say is the hardest thing to get used to living in Oman? Because obviously some people would adjust to not eat pork or to not being in shorts, or whatever else the case may be. Um, I don't think I'd have any too many problems with that personally. But what would you say for you was the hardest part of thing to get used to about living in Oman, in a place like Oman?
I will say probably one of the biggest struggles being a expat woman would definitely be dating. Oh, there's challenges in that capacity. Like I've learned lessons from my first year of being here, things that I said I wouldn't, I did do, and I'm like I'm not gonna do it again. You know what I mean? So it's just like that's always an adjustment. But I feel like honestly, wherever you live, dating is the challenge. Was
Is there like a dating scene out there? Is there like dating apps? Do people is there a nightlife? Is there things that people can do to meet other people out there? Yeah. Is that like a thing out there?
Why do you say that? Because, like, there is a nightlife, like, not necessarily in my town. I mean, this was a smaller city, so it's just like you go the whole to the hotel bar, you can have a drink there. But for the most part, like, it's not clubs in my town. But in Muscat, yeah, there is a nightlife there. Like, there are social events you can go to, and, like, I know, like, even, like, me and my ex-boyfriend, like, we actually met each other at a networking event. It's like, I don't know if you heard of there's an app called Internations. So it's just like this, yeah, so it's an app called Internations, and it's not a dating app. That's just actually like for social networking, things like that. But of course, it's like this is it's a way to get, in the expat community and then see who else is here. So that's actually my ex-boyfriend networking. The apps do exist. Like I don't know about local, like I don't know, like because I honestly there's not a real dating culture for locals here, but expats like we had like there's oh goodness, I just had a brain fart for some reason. But like the normal dating apps that you have back home, they have them here too. Like,
So there is a way to socialize and meet other people. There's a way to do it, but just like everywhere else in the world, I'm sure it's a feat right now. It's kind of tough. So yeah, you're like you were mentioning. So let me ask you this. So out there, you
have become a teacher, right? So what do you teach out there in Oman?
English. I'm an English teacher, yes.
So you teach English. Let me ask you about that type of culture adjustment as far as the language is concerned. Did you have to learn the new language in order to teach English? And was it difficult if you did?
Actually, I did not. It's funny because, like, even to the I've been here a long time. Like, I know a few Arabic phrases just to get me by, and even my students, like, I say certain things at the end of the class, like, "Oh, class is over." Like, they'll know when I say something in Arabic. They're like, "Oh, class, time to finish the class." So, there's a few, like, phrases that but, like, full-on conversational Arabic, I never like, my I told myself I would study the language, but then life just be life. I have like 11 jobs, being like a travel influencer and a writer and a blogger. So I have so many other things going on. It was just like, I don't want to study. So I was back today. Just like luckily it's easy to get around without English. I mean, well, sorry, without Arabic. So because everybody speaks English, they've been studying it for years. So and I teach it to these students. So by the time they get to the university level, like they have a basic understanding of English.
Okay, okay, so yeah, so you're not just teaching them straight ground level English,
Right.
Nah, okay, excellent. What about the written language? Is it easy to understand and read Arabic?
No. That See, that's the main reason that it was such a struggle for me to, like, even think of like, wrap my head around trying to study. Because, like, it's like the squiggly lines, and then they read from, like, instead of writing from right to left. Like, I think about it, I was just like, "You guys, like, being able to learn English, it's impressive because like, your language is totally opposite than ours." I can still read, like, if if you go to one of the international stores here, like, we have Korean products, like, I can still read Korean. I picked that up in, like, months. If that language, like, the block letters, like, it was just so much easier to learn, and I still remember, like, most of it, like, I might be able to read it and not know what it actually says, but what it means, but I can understand the letters. Here, Arabic, I'm like, "Oh, that's another monster."
Now, you mentioned that when you were there, you were teaching, you're doing travel blogs, you're doing all these other things. I imagine that you're doing all those things to kind of supplement your income. Let me ask you about the affordability of living abroad. How affordable is it to live abroad and in a place like Oman? And especially how would you compare it to the current living expenses here in the United States? As you know, we're having our world famous trade wars right now.
It's interesting because, like, since I live in I will say I'm fortunate because I live in Niswa, so it's like a smaller. I want to say it's probably like the second or third largest city in the country, but still, in comparison to Muscat, like the cost of living is lower where I live compared to if I lived in like the major city. I have a 2 bedroom, 2 bath apartment that I'm living in. It's fully furnished, and I'm only paying $650 a month in rent. Like that part. When my other interview went live, like, some people were just like, "Oh, that's expensive," and I was just like, "Really? Like, what are you talking about?" Like, compared because they don't, living abroad, like, compared to Thailand or Bali, the $300 or $400. But I was like, $650 for a two-bedroom apartment is not bad compared to the back home. I was like, my family, they live in Atlanta. I was like, I'm not even getting a studio for that.
Nah, yeah, you couldn't get a cardboard box in Ellie. Yeah, and then the rest of the cost of living as far as expenses, food, and all these other things, all of that stuff, as I'm imagining, is pretty affordable.
Exactly. I mean, I just wanna say I do quite well, can all things considered. Like, I will say, like, compared to other countries in the GCC, like Oman, um I do okay, but because, like, for example, Dubai or even Doha and Qatar, like, they make more money than where I was like, but I have more peace of mind. Like, I just love where I live because it's peaceful. Omanis are so laid back, so it's just like, I do okay.
As far as the people, you said the people are laid back, they're chill, they're very cool. How do people treat Black people there in Oman, and what are the feelings towards Black Americans or just Americans in general in that country?
Oh, yeah, honestly, it's funny because especially now that I got my braids, like, for example, like, I don't drive here, so I'll take a taxi in a heartbeat. And so, like, when I get in a taxi, a lot of them know me because 'cause I've been here for so long, but, say some for one of them don't know me and then they see me, they're like, sister, like, well, the first one, "Where are you from?" And then I'm like, "Yeah, American." Like, I know, instead of saying USA, I said American, like, how to pronounce in the Arabic. Like, "Oh, USA." So, like, their whole demeanor be like, "Oh, interesting. Like, you're from USA." Because, like, especially when I have my braids, they're like, "Oh," the first thing they think I'm either Tanzania, they may think I'm, like, South African. So, like, when they see that I'm American, they're just like, "Oh, interesting." Like, "Yeah, good USA, good." Then they start asking me, like, how I like Oman, and when I tell them I love this country, they're just like, "Oh, very good." So it's so interesting because, like, I've been here for so so long. So I remember when Obama was president, like, if I would say, American, they're like, "Oh, Obama." Like, that's the first thing they get excited, like, "Oh, that's," like that. "Yes, we love Obama." And now that, the other man is back in office, look to Trump, they just, like, "Is it?" It's just like, it's the reflection, just like, "Ooh." And I just kinda joking, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm happy to be in Oman." Like, I just have my little banter with them. But for the most part, there's a good level of respect that if I tell them I'm a teacher, they're like, "Oh, a teacher, that very good, very good." So that they respect the fact that I'm here because I'm working with their kids, you know what I mean? I will say, I don't feel any racial tension as a Black American woman. Like, I will say, I'll keep it, real. Like, I like to let them know that I'm American because, like, I always wonder, like, I know my experience might be different if I were, like, African, like, if I did say, I'm from South Africa, or, like, I know you stories, so just say it's not a perfect country. I like to tell people, I feel like in this region in particular, there's more of an issue with classism than racism. It's just like, they hear you're American, they're like, "Oh," they think like, "Oh, America, oh my," like, same thing. But then, like, if, you say you're from, like, a certain African country, they're just I do feel like there's a level of just like, you know so, when it comes to that, so I will say I have privilege. I'll admit it. Like, being a African American woman living in the GCC, there are certain privileges that I have.
So there's American privilege, not so much white privilege, but there's American privilege. Okay, that's bad. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That might make people feel a little more confident about becoming expats. Just hearing that. So you've traveled all over the world, been around the world, and I, one of my favorite songs. Uh, let me ask you this. Now, obviously, you love traveling. Obviously, you've gotten bitten by the travel bug. Do you ever plan on returning back to the United States and living here? Are you a permanent expat or just a temporary expat?
I know, and then it's so funny you said it because it's just like people are like, "Oh, you're not excited. We're never coming back. You're an immigrant, right? You're just moving it." I'm like, eventually, I probably will take on that label. Oh, no, it's like, I do love this life. Like, honestly, I see myself staying abroad for as long as the great creator have allow me to be, not necessarily in Oman forever, but like I was saying before, like, Portugal is like my dream destination to go to next. But I like to tell people I'm flexible. I'm open to opportunities. So, like, if the right opportunity opens itself up in, like, parts of Africa, like Ghana was on my list, South Africa, like, there's just so much world to see.
Yeah, yeah. Do you miss
You know,
living in the United States?
I miss the people more so than I miss living there. So, like, I like to I'm open, like, I'm honestly, like, I don't know what the future holds. Like, I may need to come back to the States. I may get older and I'm just like, "Oh, that good healthcare back." So, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but in my future goal, my plan is to retire abroad because, like, I do feel like it'll be cheaper too.
So what's been your overall review of your life on the other route? Have you found it to be challenging, fulfilling? How would you describe it?
Oh my goodness, I would just say life is good. Like, honestly, one of the things that I like to tell people who are considering becoming an expat, like, obviously I've done it for over 15 years now, so obviously I enjoy it, and I'm always an advocate. Like, I like to tell people, I'm like, "The US is not going anywhere, States isn't going anywhere, like, I can always go back." Yeah, back home. Or thank that's home. I'm not giving up that blue passport. I'm not giving it up. I'm not walking away from it. So, like, I can always go back, but you never know unless you try. It's just like I never would have known that I could, travel all over the world and have all these, amazing experiences and become a published author and like a freelancer and be featured in publications like like, I never even dreamed this life for myself. I knew I love to travel, but, like, honestly, I'm, like, literally living, like, my ancestors' wildest dreams, like, being able to see the things in our lives. Well, I'm so grateful for it. So, I just like to people go for it. Like, you never know, try, so
just go for it, right? Just pick up those reins. Is that is that kind of how your journey started? You just kind of picked up and just said, "Screw it, I'm going." Yeah,
Pretty much, yeah. I had a whole condo, like, I was settled. I was in Chicago, I had my condo, I packed it up and put things in storage and was out. Just
never looked.
I was out.
But Nicole, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to us and to give us the scoop and let us know what it's like to be an expat living in Oman. Thank you for educating us on that part of the world. And for any of you out there who are interested in doing this, take a page out of Nicole's book. Take, and just pick up and just go. That's what I would say.
Please do. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Of course. Thank you so much.